Good evening, everyone. Gordon Causey, as always. And guess who? Candy the Wonder Pup. If this is your first time or one of the first times watching my channel, Candy is standard. She's part of the furniture. She has been for the past 4 years. And she's become conditioned, or I've become conditioned. Every time I start a video, she has to get a treat. And I just bought some bacon treats that are absolutely driving her crazy. Bacon! Shake a paw. Lay down. Speak. Come on up. Show your pretty face. There you go. So Candy starts out pretty much every video. Not every one, but 90. I've got 300 plus. And she's probably in every one but 4 or 5. So, as I always say, now that she's taken care of, I get some peace. Hopefully, someone doesn't go walking by the front of the house, sending her off barking like a banshee, which has happened. Live chat, again, always on. I see I have 3 people watching. I really like this. I enjoy this. I enjoy the interaction. Daniel Copeman, salut mon ami de Montréal, my Montreal friend who comes by a lot. Evening to you as well. Always says he's from Montreal, Chinata. So many people, we have such a great impression of our wonderful country of Canada. Used to be a great country, still is in many ways, but the way it's being run nowadays, different world we're living in. Before I get rolling, the usual, thank you for the likes. I'm over 960 now, making that slow climb toward 1,000. Kind of, I think I will get over 1,000 at some point. Might be a few days, might be a few weeks, but once it happens, then the next threshold, Daniel Coleman says I'm at 966. And it goes up and down. It seems to go up 5 or 6, and then 1 or 2 will drop off, and then up 10, and then a couple will drop off. It's very herky jerky. But once I get to 1,000, assuming I do, then where's the next milestone? Well, I guess pretty much 2,000. So it'll take a while. Anyway, so maybe 980, 990 is better than 1,012 in a way. I called this one tonight, this video, our digital world, and just I'm engaged in a bit of alliteration, everything starting with the letter D, this distorted, deceptive, divisive, and ultimately demonic world. I wrote them down just so I wouldn't forget what our world has become. And I'm talking about the digital world now, computers, and I want to relate a story. It would have been the late 1980s, maybe 86, 87, 1990 at the latest. I had a great aunt who was born in 1901. So you always knew how old she was. Just take a year off the day. At 1986, she was 85 years of age. She didn't die until 1998 or 99. She died just shy of her she was 98 years of age when she died. She died just shy of her 99th birthday. And she was very healthy her entire life, right up until about 95. And when she hit 95, her health started to decline. And I used to go and visit her when I moved into an apartment in Toronto. She lived in Toronto. And so I used to go and visit her on occasion. And on one of my visits, she hit me with something the pastor at her church had told her. And you got to contextualize these times. Remember, it's the late 80s. And back during the days of Tandy and Commodore 64 computers, computing was brand new. There was no internet per se. My first time surfing the internet was around 1995 or 96 on a 9600 baud rate modem, the days of the over a landline when you couldn't use your computer and the phone at the same time. And back then, I didn't even have a computer. I worked for a marketing company, and one of our clients was an ISP, an internet service provider. And I remember they had their own browser. It wasn't Netscape or anything else. They had their own browser for browsing the internet. There were lots of companies when the internet first broke out in the mid-late 90s who were all vying to become a dominant player in the marketplace. And that was my introduction to the internet, surfing at work on a 9600 baud rate modem when the internet was overwhelmingly just text. Forget video. And anyway, Lila was the name of my great aunt. And her pastor at church had told her to take the letters of the alphabet and to assign each letter in order a multiple of 6. So the letter A would be 6, B would be 12, C 18, D 24, and on through the alphabet, every letter assigned a multiple of 6. So you go through and you assign the numerical values to each letter. And then she was told to take the word computer, COMPUTER, and the corresponding numerical values for each letter and add them up. Daniel or any one of the other people, 4 or 5 people watching right now, does anyone care to guess what happens if you do that? What the word computer comes out to? It comes to 666. And again, A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, D 24, E 30, and on through the alphabet. And then you take the corresponding value for each letter in the word computer, add them together, and you get 666. And if you know your Bible and you know Revelation chapter 13, where it says, the number of the beast, that everyone would be required to take the number of the beast. I've got my Bible here. I like to have one close at hand all the time. I'll start at verse 16 of chapter 13, Revelation. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Verse 18, this calls for wisdom. Let he who has understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666. And so, wow, computers, demonic, beastly. And now we look at the world that we live in. That was 1980, whatever, 1987, 1988. I don't think it was 86. Probably 87, 88, or 89. Back then, most people didn't have a computer in their house. Now everyone not only has a computer in their house, but they also have handheld computing devices, tablets and phones. It's become, our world now runs digitally. We live in a digital world, and you can absolutely distort things digitally. And we're seeing this through the application of AI, artificial intelligence technologies. You can now have videos where you can have Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Justin Trudeau or Bill Gates or even sports celebrities saying anything you want to. A lot of the AI generated content that you see now is obvious. It's very easy to spot, and you say, oh, that's AI. And I think that can lead to a false sense of security, because people will think, oh, AI is easy to spot. I actually think there's potential that is done on purpose to to give people a false sense of security and to have people think that, well, AI isn't the threat that it's being made out to be because it is so easy to spot. I have seen other videos come out where it's not easy to spot. And the simple fact of the matter is, even someone like me with AI out there, they can take my images, they can take my voice. AI will know my mannerisms, my even my visual genuflections that I make. I talk with my hands a fair bit. Daniel Copeman is writing that AI is demonic. And I agree. I mean, the application of this technology is scary. And someone could do a, what do they call it? What FaceTime type phone call. And it can be me. It can be you. It can be anyone. And make others believe whatever, make people believe that I have been kidnapped, that I'm in distress, that I, could message a relative and have me talking and needing to have money transferred to an account. The potential for fraud is unreal. And this is just a distortion of reality. And, distortion, deceptive, obviously the two play into each other. Deception is all, and Daniel Copeman's writing that it has already been done. It's been done. It's happening right now. This kind of thing is happening, and it is absolutely 100% demonic. And further, I put down there as well that it's divisive, and it is divisive because just the digital world, not talking about AI per se, not talking about AI at all. I'm just talking about the digital world. We all have this alternative reality, this alternative digital reality. And the way that people operate on their Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms, Telegram, Parler, the way that people interact with the digital world is different than the way people interact face to face. And when I look at what happened during COVID, when the entire shutdown happened, a lot of people who had never used Zoom were now forced onto it. If they wanted to engage in things like worship service, if you want to, well, now you have to do it via Zoom. And if you want to have that Bible study, well, it has to be done over Zoom because it's simply too dangerous for people to meet face to face. And, the last D that I wrote, digital world, it's distorted, it's deceptive, it's divisive, and it is demonic. It is 100% absolutely demonic. And the COVID era helped push people into that digital realm. Even senior citizens updated their internet connections so that they could talk. Because you couldn't go visit your dying elderly grandmother in the nursing home anymore. The only way you could do it was over a video. You couldn't touch skin to skin. And Daniel's writing, wait until CBDCs kick in, central bank digital currencies. There's so much happening in this world. It is so utterly demonic. And I think a large percentage of the population recognizes this. And I've done 2 recent videos that have been viewed. The 2 combined have been viewed over 1,000 times on the Mormon Church, on the Latter-day Saint Church. And why, I was asking in the most recent one, why is there this sudden thirst for spiritual awakening, for examining who God is and trying to find a way into it. And people are doing it from a world where we've lost touch with our Judeo-Christian heritage in this country. Just going to catch up. Miss Helleth Razor is also here. And you're not too late for the live. Something someone else told me is that when you come on late for a live, put on double speed or time 1.5, and then you can catch up and jump in on the live. But then all of a sudden I'll go from talking 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden it'll slow down. I've taken to reviewing some of my videos, and when I'm curious as to what I was saying a year ago or 6 months ago, I'll watch those videos, and now I watch them at an increased speed to get through them quicker. And the thing that strikes me is when I slow it down to normal speed, I like it at the high speed. I sound so much more intelligent, so much more cogent, no pauses, and the pauses that there are very short. Any rate, keeping up with what's being written. Randy Kinder's back, talking about all the smart technology, smartphones, smart TV, smart meters, smart cars, everything. Humanity, we're becoming dumb, and our devices are smart. We are outsourcing our brains to devices. Sheriff of YouTube writes, demonic people have always existed just like horses. Hey. Yeah, I get the joke. I thought your comment that you put on one of those videos, and by the way, those two videos on the Latter-day Saint faith and my experience with it have generated a lot of comments, and I'm going to do my best to answer everyone, especially those who have left long comments. I really appreciate it. Overwhelmingly, they're positive. And a lot of them are very introspective, and a lot of them have introduced me to things that I wasn't aware of, like scandals. I wasn't aware of all these scandals and these names of people who have been involved in nefarious things within the LDS Church. I've got to look into that, but I will take the time to respond to everyone. But getting on to the point of, this thirst, this hunger, this desire for a deeper meaning, for a spiritual awakening. I think part of it is driven from the fact that a lot of people recognize that we are living in a demonic world. However, there's a cautionary tale there too, because individuals come out like the Mormon Church or the LDS Church or other churches, other groups, and quite often they sound incredibly authoritative. They know exactly what it says in the Bible. The Mormons have their alternative texts, the Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, this Pearl of Great Price. And they've got the word and they have the authority. And I would be cautious around anyone who professes to have complete and full knowledge and understanding of God. I talked before in a recent video about one of the commandments being, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. There are many, I think they want to take on godly authority, and they want to profess themselves to be God's spokesperson on the earth. And for all the peoples. And if you oppose what they're teaching, if you oppose their doctrine, they will tell you you are opposing God, that you are deceived, that you don't have their understanding, that the Spirit is not at work in you the way it is with them. And that is something to be cautious of. I wonder whether I think in some cases it's just a genuine desire to get to the finish line. I want to know the answer. I don't want to have to read through everything. I just want to get to the answer. Just give me, and so they will gravitate toward churches of this description, to individuals who have this aura of authority about them. And you've got to be so careful. You have to be so discerning. And now we live in a world where anyone, Gordon Causey, Joe Nobody from southeastern Ontario, little town of 14,000 people, I can put out a video. I can now broadcast my thoughts, my views, and my opinions to the world. And anyone can do this. Anybody. The entry, there's no cost, basically. You know, I don't need a production studio. I don't need writers. I don't need cameramen or camera people. And I can inject myself into the public discourse. And I could, and I know that it's those individuals who are most assured, who are most forthright, who are most positive, that I know, they tend to garner a good following because they're speaking with assurance. I think of it in the political realm. I think that's part of the reason why a politician like Donald Trump is so popular, why he was able to win the president, came from outside the political sphere. He's a businessman, he's a television personality, and then he enters the political realm and he wins the presidency, having never held an elected office previously in his life. But I think he understood that element of human nature, that people want someone who's positive, who's sure, who's strong. And so nobody knows more than women about women's issues than me. I know more about women's issues than anybody. Okay. Absolutely. Everyone knows it. Military. Oh, I'm so good at military. I know everything about the military. All right. No question. I know everything about the economy. Okay. There's no one who knows more about economics than me. There's no one who knows more about how to deal with criminals than me. Donald Trump knows more about how to handle criminals than anyone on the face of the planet Earth. And for a lot of people, that kind of assuredness is, oh, good. Someone knows everything. Yeah. And I don't say that to disparage Donald Trump. I think it's part of his, and I'll call it genius. The man knows how to win. And I think he understands human nature very well. And he knows what it takes to bring people on side with you. And so he exploits it. Anyway, I'm going to read up what's being right. Daniel Goldman is writing that we live in the upside down, and we do. The world has gone upside down. Don't know boys from girls. Don't know right from wrong. You know, virtue has become evil, and evil has become virtue. Sheriff writes, demonic people have always existed. Okay, I'm repeating. Daniel Coleman writes, smartphone dumbasses. Yeah. Sharunian's here. Jay Morrison admits that he stole money from 15,000 investors. He circled around questions from those who gave money. What a scammer. People are looking for quick answers, and that makes it easy to exploit them, whether it be this Jay Morrison down in the state with his Tulsa real estate fund that Sharunian is referencing. People want quick, they want easy, they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do due diligence. They don't want to dig. And so we become victims of cults of personality. And I'm just going to read. Daniel Coltman likes my Trump impression. It's not as good as it used to be. What I need is a MAGA hat with blonde hair underneath, and lose the goatee and mustache. And charisma is such a big thing for Trump. Trump has it. Now, there are people who absolutely detest Donald Trump, and that's fair enough. But there's no disputing. I will say that Donald Trump has charisma. I will also say that Barack Obama has charisma. He's got an aura about him. Anyway, reading on. Randy Kinder writes, Trump is much, much bigger than you know. Remember, we are at war. That's Randy Kinder's comment. And I'm leery of, I have a savior. I'm professing my faith more and more these days. And I have a savior. I belong to the King of Kings. I belong to the Lord of Lords. I'm with the name above every other name, and that includes Donald Trump. And I caution against this constantly. People are looking for salvation. They're looking for rescue. They're looking to defeat this beastly world that we live in. And so they're putting their faith into the Donald Trump, some into Elon Musk, some into Pierre Poilievre. You know, in Netherlands, they've got this guy Geert Wilders or Wilders, and in France, Le Pen, and they're looking for political solutions to a political problem. Well, if you expect politics to solve politics, I think my belief is you're going to be disappointed. Kevin MN writes, Trump is just Kim Kardashian for spiritually weak people. I don't personally, my own personal take on Trump is I don't believe he's Satan, and I don't believe he's a saint. He's between the two. I think there are some he has aspects of his character which are excellent. I also think there are aspects of his character that are horrible. You know, and like all of us, there's such a tendency in this world now for everyone to want everything to be polar. We live in a bipolar world. Someone has to be all good, all great, all amazing, or completely bad. They have to be demonic, horrible. And I think it's easier for us to recognize that our heroes are not perfect, but we won't when it comes to someone we disagree, like a Barack Obama. Someone will find who doesn't like Barack Obama will find it very difficult to find anything good to say about him or Justin Trudeau. I can say something good about Justin Trudeau, something I liked, something he said from the 2015 campaign. Justin Trudeau said, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And on that point, I agreed with him because there was debate going on about old stock Canadians versus newer Canadians. And Trudeau said, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. And I agree with him. I don't like divisiveness and saying, well, the old stock Canadians think this and the newer Canadians think that. My ancestors were newer Canadians. 3 of my 4 grandparents, rather, one of my 4 grandparents were born in overseas. I have 4 grandparents. 3 of them were Canadian born. One was from Scotland, but the others were the product of British immigration, Irish immigration, and Welsh immigration. We're all the children of immigrants. Anyway, just going to catch up. Randy Kinder writes, just a man. I think that's in reference to Bush. Sharunian says, when I saw Donald Trump back in WWE television years ago, back then, I never imagined he could run for president. You know, it's his world. I mean, the entertainment world, he went from being involved in the real estate game. And then he became a media personality through his TV show, The Apprentice, a top-rated show, became a media celebrity. And then from there, his business empire, which had prior to that, it had been primarily real estate. Then he was able to stick his name onto ties, onto steaks, onto vodka, onto any product, and they would license his name because the name had value. People valued the Trump name. Maybe not everyone, but people would pay him millions of dollars to stick his name in a licensing agreement onto some product, like Trump ties or Trump steaks or Trump vodka, and there's more. Kevin writes, people that idolize Trump, like, I'll be quite honest, I'm not an American. I did spend, I've mentioned it many times, almost 10 years growing up in New York, New Jersey, and Oregon. So I have a certain American sensibility to the way I see the world. And I would vote if you're giving me a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I'm voting Trump every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It's no contest. I don't think I'll be very surprised if Joe Biden is still alive even after the end of the next upcoming presidential term. I have Sharunian asked me, you're always asking me about people I've never heard of. Craig Titus. No, I am not familiar with Craig Titus. And Daniel Copeman just writes Trump in all caps. So this digital world that we're living in being so horribly, the biggest thing we have to do as human beings is, number one, we have to connect with each other. We have to be kind to one another. We have to realize that nobody's perfect. And we have to stop seeking simple answers to incredibly complex problems. I haven't really got a way of tying up this video, kind of grasping at straws right now, trying to think how to wrap it up because I don't want to go on too late tonight. I do appreciate everyone jumping on, though. Daniel and MHR, Randy, Sheriff of YouTube, Sharunian. You guys are fantastic. And, this world, it's almost, and the irony doesn't escape me. Here I'm trying to inject what I consider to be some truth into the world, and I'm calling the digital world demonic, deceptive, divisive, and everything. And yet I'm trying to spread this message over that very same medium, over a digital medium. And today, my day was went out to soccer with my little guy. They lost 2-0. And then he and I went for a bike ride around town, got lost, marginally lost, didn't know exactly where we were. Just keep going. I'll find a street I'm familiar with. Went into a newer part of town where they built retirement homes. Not retirement homes, but it's one of these communities. It's called Brighton by the Bay, where I think you have to be no kids allowed. And they're all small 2-bedroom homes, little bungalows. And it's funny, I just was thinking about how can you do that? If I wanted to buy one of those homes, would they say, no, you're not allowed to have it? You're not, how can they say that? It's, you can drive from my house to that house. It's not a gated community. It's not condominium. I don't know. Randy Kinder calls me old and says I need pee breaks. Yeah, especially when I'm drinking coffee. But hey, I haven't had to go to the bathroom during one of my videos yet. But even the ones that go over an hour, and I have Miss Christie's here. Digital media isn't inherently bad. It's all in how you use it, and that's. Well, I look at. That's how you and I use it, but I'm talking about the medium itself. I mean, look, YouTube is owned by Google. And look at the censorship that went on, and look at the way that they are able to promote content, and the content that they promote, that they, force feed people. And during the vaccine period, the content was all heavily geared toward getting people to take the shot, and anyone who dared have the temerity to speak out against or to express negative opinions and views and thoughts on the vaccines, boom, shut down. That's evil. That's evil. And so much of what was purported to be science was actually just politics. I was watching a video where they showed a bunch of talking heads on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, CBC, CTV Global. They had all these talking heads in the mainstream saying science is truth, and they had them all saying it the way we see so often, that there seems to be a scripted narrative that it doesn't matter whether it's CNN or even Fox or all the media that are supposedly competing against one another all seem to be reading the same script. And they were all saying science is truth, science is truth, science is truth. And science is not truth. Science is a process of investigation. It's a human endeavor that attempts to discover the truth. But in of itself, science is not truth. And so often we find, especially during the COVID era, what was presented as scientific proof, we later found out the science, we heard the science says that 2 doses of the COVID vaccines will provide long-lasting sterilizing immunity to infection. So if they say the science says, and they say that science is truth, was that true? No. 2 doses did not provide long-lasting sterilizing immunity to infection. We found that out very quickly in Israel when so-called breakthrough infections, instead of being rare, were pretty much expected. Everyone. And then the narrative changed. Well, that the truth that we had before, we found out that was a lie. So this whole idea that we've entered into a world of scientism, and this digital world that we're in makes the dissemination of lies like that incredibly easy. Sharunian writes, planning to head over to Mara Beach with my family. Good for you. Kevin writes, it is also the other people who can be toxic because it's easy to stay stuff. And that's, so people will be so incredibly keyboard warrior types who would never be as vile face to face. I'm convinced a lot of the times that the individuals who like to be so bullying online are probably 4 foot tall and 103 pounds. And, now they have the chance to be, to be the big bully after having been bullied for probably, a good portion of their lives. Now, digitally, they can be a digital bully. Randy Kinder writes, they all have the same owners when we're talking about the media in terms of whether it's Fox or ABC, NBC, CBS, corporate ownership. If you look at that diagram that shows, or that chart that shows, companies like BlackRock, how controlled our media is, especially in the mainstream. And then you have, it's ironic, you have YouTube here, and they can create the illusion of free speech because they'll allow someone like me, or anyone for that matter, to inject their voice and to scream and to call it out. But I'm a fart in a hurricane. It's like standing in front of the speakers at an AC/DC concert. The speakers represent the voice of the mainstream, and then you have my voice in trying to shout over it. It's almost impossible. Kevin writes, they are all owned by the same companies, run by the same elites who push their truths on us. And that's where we need to get back to this. Jesus said, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And people have been conditioned to believe that that this is just a bunch of fairy tale nonsense. And so they reject it out of hands. And the same people that are telling you that the Bible is a bunch of superstitious fairy tale nonsense, they're the same people who are telling you that the Undersecretary of Health in the US, that overweight guy who likes to wear a dress, they're telling you he's a woman. They're lying on 2 counts. No, that guy, I think he goes by the name Rachel. I think that's the name. That obese guy who's the Undersecretary of Health, wears a naval uniform, the female version of a naval uniform, who's got a mental condition. He thinks he's a woman. Well, you're not. You're a guy. And uh, the same people promoting that lie, that gender is simply a matter of subjective feeling, are the same people telling you to reject the Bible. Call them out on both. Don't reject the Bible and don't give into this nonsense that there are an endless number of genders and that it's a subjective thing. You got to catch up. Daniel Copeman writes, are smartphones the downfall of society? It seems that way. I long for days pre-smartphone. People don't do almost anything IRL anymore. IRL is in that internet relay chat, or in real life. In real life. Look at that. This is how conditioned we are. He wrote IRL, meaning I think, I'm 99% sure, in real life. And I defaulted to IRC, internet relay chat, which that was the early days of the internet. We need to get back. I mean, and this is the irony. I'm saying it online on a YouTube channel that we need to get live and face to face, and we need to get into community with each other. And church is a great place to do that. Church is a wonderful place to do that. When the American Revolution was planned, it was a lot of the planning and a lot of the organization and a lot of the discussion that went on around that, and that led to the U.S. Revolution, the American Revolution, happened in churches because people are in community there and you know a person's heart. Online, you don't. Miss Helen Razier writes, there are so many things submerged that keep us from the truth, yet advertising advertising of or on Facebook is fine. There's so many words that cannot be said here in Canada. Not only words that cannot be said, but now there are words that they compel us to say. I've been thinking of resurrecting my old blog and writing a mock satirical news article about a new declaration of transgender or children's rights. Canned updating, and I got to think through it, but canned updating its rights of the child. You have the right to pick your gender. If you cannot pick your gender, it can be fluid and can change from day to day. You have the right to not be challenged. And just going through the whole woke thing and writing it up, and I bet you people would believe that it's real, that this is what Canada is actually doing, because to a large degree, to a large extent, this is what we're doing. We're infantilizing or infanticizing. We're making children out of everyone. Only Big Brother government is allowed to make decisions for you now, and parents don't get to decide how they're going to bring up their kids. That's the job of the state. Catching up. Mish Christie, I think those COVID era echo chambers woke a lot of people up, because that's what, during COVID, that's what happened. People got into their echo chambers. And I was fortunate to the extent that I started going to churches that were not complying. And I started traveling and I started meeting with groups. I'm not a big one for protest rallies, but I did go to one in Peterborough, one in Toronto, and you get face to face with people. And then in the digital world, primarily what I saw was the majority of my friend network, people who I actually knew from real life, people I'd worked with or gone to school with, or knew from basketball or different things, people I'd actually could put a name and a face to, and I could say that I'd met them. Those people I found typically went along with the narrative. They went along with whatever they were told. Get 2 shots, sure. Get a booster, sure. Just about everyone has gotten off the COVID vaccine train. Thank God. But anyway, going on. Randy Kinder writes, let's see, Daniel. Yeah, Daniel Coleman writes, 10 foot tall and bulletproof digitally. That's, the keyboard warriors. That's the way they view themselves. 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Yeah, digitally. Randy Kinder makes the BlackRock. That's a hedge fund. probably have trillions of dollars by now, and they own just about everything. And they can move the market. They can absolutely move the market on any stock. Yeah, Daniel Coleman writes, YouTube will let me speak, or anyone speak, until they disagree with what I have to say. And that's happened to me several times now. I've had videos taken down. I've got a strike on my account right now because the depopulation agenda. I'm not allowed to believe that there is an actual depopulation agenda. Not allowed to believe that. Not allowed to put out, not allowed to, I'm allowed to say that, but I'm not allowed to give any of the reasons why I think it's true, because that's misinformation, disinformation, according to the pink-haired fact checkers with their PhDs in gender studies at YouTube. So, yeah, I do think it's real, 100%. Most will know about Deagle, Deagel. I think that's how it's spelled. That's D, Delta, Echo, Alpha, Lima, Golf, Echo, Lima, Deagle.com, but it's the website has been taken down. And I think the numbers were from 2015. They gave Canada's current population in 2015, which was 35 million or so. And then they gave a projected population for 2025. And their projected population for 2025 had Canada at 25 million. And then you had the Georgia Guidestones with their number one guiding principle being to maintain human population under 500 million. But whoever put up those Guidestones was, forget the cost of them, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, but to be able to do it completely clandestinely so that no one knows who put them up. What kind of power, wealth, and influence do these types of individuals have? And they're promoting this idea, maintain humanity under 500 million. And you don't think there's a real agenda behind it? I do. Sharunian is asking about my male pattern baldness. It's not actually, I'm a receding hairline. And it started to come out late teens, like 19, 20 is when it started to happen. And it was around the age of 28, around the age of 28, 29, 30, right around there, right around 30. I started to realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing a comb over. And that's when I started shaving it down, although I'd been shaving it down for 10 plus years. It had been 10 plus years since I'd really let it grow out. And so a few months ago, I decided, well, let's see, how much hair do I have left and what color is it? So I did let it grow out for a time, but I've taken it back because it looks horrible. It looks so much better like this. And Mish Christie is enumerating that famous Hans Christian Andersen fable about the emperor having no clothes and how it only took one small voice to point out that the emperor had no clothes. That's a great instructive if anyone doesn't know that fable. And it actually predates Hans Christian Andersen, but he's a famous writer who put pen to paper and wrote it down. But I think it comes from earlier sources about what a smart person thinks. And the TV programs us that if you're a smart person, you get vaccines. And if you're a smart person, you don't like Donald Trump. And if you're a smart person, you view Pierre Poilievre and the conservatives as being a dangerous ultra right wing. And they tell you what to think the same way that the tailors told the emperor that, oh, this is beautiful fabric, but only those worthy of their positions can see it. That was the con that they played on the emperor. They invisible fabric that nothing was there, and they said that only people who were fit for their position could see it. So the emperor, standing there naked, pretended he could see it because he didn't want people to think he wasn't fit for his position. And all his courtiers said they could see it because otherwise they wouldn't be fit for their positions. And then eventually the emperor went parading through town, and everyone was applauding because they had heard that if you can't see the emperor's new clothes, then you're not fit to hold the position you hold. But a young child looked and said, the emperor's naked. And it's similar in a fashion to the way things are now with, if you're a good person and a smart person, this is what you think. You believe in the COVID vaccines. You believe that the lockdown measures and doing everything we could to protect people from a benign little respiratory bug that was floating around, that was justified if you're a good person. Oh, I'm a good person. I'll believe that. If you're a good person, you believe that children who want to postpone their puberty going through adolescence, that they be prescribed dangerous pharmaceutical products. If you're a good person, you'll go along with that. Oh, I'm a good person. I'll go along with that. And the reason people will believe that's good is because they stopped reading this book. They stopped reading their Bible. They're no longer even have any semblance of a relationship with the King of Kings, with the Lord of Lords, with the author of life, with he who said, I am the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Well, if you're abiding in the truth, you'll recognize lies. We don't abide in the truth anymore, so we don't recognize. That's why so many in the world do not recognize the lies. And I realize that there are individuals who recognize the lies who are not Christian, who and actually have major issues with Christianity, but God writes it on our hearts. And I would say those people who are still able to see the lies and hypocrisy of this world, while at the same time being hostile toward the Christian faith, I believe it's written on your heart. And I think it's just a matter of breaking down that wall. There are a lot of bad experiences that are out there that people have had at bad churches with bad Christians. But your relationship is not with a church. Your relationship is not with other believers. Your relationship is with Jesus Christ. And you're not perfect either. And that can be a tough nut to swallow. Everyone thinks they're more sinned against than sinning. Try walking around in other people's shoes. I bet you've hurt people before. I know I have. We've all fallen short. And it's going to catch up and then end. Randy Kinder writes, what about Big Mike, aka Michelle Obama? I've openly speculated, been just on my own thinking about it, that what if Michelle Big Mike Obama runs in replacing Joe Biden? I said, will that blow this whole speculation about Michelle Mike Obama's true gender? Will it blow that up? Will that conspiracy go mainstream? And I wonder. And I'm leaning toward believing it's. I'm not going to say definitively that I believe it's true, but I will say I'm leaning in that direction. That Joan Rivers video clip and the fact that she died within 2 weeks of it is just too suspicious for me to just completely dismiss. But I'm not saying I'm all in. And I'm just wondering, would it blow it up? Daniel Copeman writes, talking about, I think it's this Rachel, Undersecretary for Health in the Biden administration, this guy, the naval officer, that is the poster freak for health. Randy Kinder, we should take one day, Gordon. I don't know what you're referring to, Randy. Oh, we should talk one day. Okay. I wonder where you are. We'll have to, I'll get on my email after this and I'll send you one. And Maybe we can meet up for a coffee sometime. I don't know where you are. Daniel Copeman. Daniel Copeman's pronouns are he, him, wake the hell up. I won't tell people my pronouns. If you can't figure it out, you're too far gone. And I'm not cisgender, I'm male. End of story. I don't get to choose. I don't get to choose my height, my eye color, my hair color, you know, uh, not the best, not the best argument because you can dye your hair. You can actually put in contact lenses that'll change your natural eye color. But height is a good one. I don't get to be height fluid. Daniel Coleman writes, during COVID, I was at the super spreader event, 300,000. No one got sick. Largest group I I gathered with that over 1,000 people in indoor situations too. Let's see. Daniel Coleman references Agenda 2030 with respect to depopulation. Sharunian's bald as well. I lost it right across the top. I tried to tell a joke before and I botched it, but I'll tell it again now. If you're losing your hair at the front, it means you're very smart and you're a thinker. You're a real thinker. And if you lose it at the back, the male pattern baldness, that means you're very sexy. So at the front, you're a thinker. At the back, sexy. And if you're like me and you lose it at the front and the back, that means you just think you're sexy. Anyway, MHR writes, immigration has overwhelmed Metro Vancouver. MHR is from BC because communism. Immigration has overwhelmed Metro Vancouver. It's weird and uncomfortable. Indigenous only are 5% of the population here now. The Haida and such, West Swetnian. British Columbia had, it still has, I'm sure, a significant native population. Jody Wilson-Raybould, who was Canada's former Attorney General under the Trudeau government, is native and from British Columbia, and she had backbone. She stood up to Trudeau and refused to back down when it came to her office investigating the crimes committed by SNC-Lavalin, while Trudeau tried to get her to basically drop the charges, to plea bargain it down, to make it a slap on the wrist, and she refused. And because of that, Trudeau fired her, demoted her, and eventually she left the Liberal Party. And she is the one person, Jody Wilson-Raybould, if she were to take over the leadership of the Liberal Party from Justin Trudeau, I voted Liberal in the past, I would seriously look at it again. I have my misgivings about Pierre Poilievre. And to see someone with integrity in that position who would go against, it's for that very reason that I don't think she'll ever run. She would never get the backing because she won't carry the bag. She won't do as she's told. She probably could have been an eventual replacement to Trudeau if she'd given in to the pressure coming from the Prime Minister's office to give SNC-Lavalin a slap on the wrist. Randy Kinder says, that's a man, baby. I think we all know. I think that's in reference to so-called Big Mike. And finally, MHR, I believe mass immigration is part of the global agenda. They want Western civilization done and gone. I agree. I think it's a case where depopulate Western countries, then backfill with people from other parts of the world, less affluent parts of the world, where people quite often have high levels of education, but their expectations about standard of living and things like human rights and civil liberties are diminished. For people coming from parts of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, coming from rural India, rural Pakistan, Bangladesh, simply having running water, clean running water. That's a luxury. Well, who cares if, if wages keep going down and costs keep going up? At least I have clean water and they can backfill. Western liberalized democracies, and I mean classic, when I use the word liberal or liberalized democracies, that's classic liberal. Classic liberals believe in free speech, believe in the rule of law, believe in everything that current Justin Trudeau style liberals do not believe in. Justin Trudeau was more of a fascist than anything else. And Sheriff of YouTube writes, deport the scabs. We need immigration in this country because Canada's birth rate, our fertility rate are too low to maintain the population. So if we went through a protracted period with no immigration, Canada's population would start to decline, and we'd have the issue of how do we deliver services to our seniors when there aren't enough people in the working population. We do need immigration. It's a question of degree, a question of level. We are bringing in far more people than are needed right now. Mass immigration immigration isn't the issue. It's mass immigration. Catching up. Daniel has to be up in 5 hours. Salut, bonne nuit, mon ami. I'm going to be shutting down shortly. Everyone have faith. Sharunian talks about hair again, how he would never get a transplant or etc. Me neither. And finally, Sheriff says declining population is something because it became hard to have kids. There are people who do have lots of kids. It's just a case, I think, where we've been conditioned to expect an amazing life. If we look at the quality of life that our grandparents had, we could have large families. We just wouldn't have 2 cars necessarily. We wouldn't necessarily get to go to the Caribbean at Christmas or at during the wintertime. We'd have to eat in more. Eating out would have to be a luxury that was very rare. We could have large families, and there are people who do still have large families. It's just you'd have to give up on keeping up with the Joneses, and that's part of our culture. Anyway, God bless. Enjoyed it tonight. We'll talk to you all. I'll have one on tomorrow. Miss Christie has 5 kids. There you go. And that, if you went back to our grandparents' age, 5 was probably about the norm in English-speaking Canada. God bless everyone. And I love hearing it. When I'm at church, when the pastor stands and says the blessing, I stand there, I open my hands, I say, pour it on to me, Ryan, or whoever is leading the service. And I love the words. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. I love those words. They're words of reassurance. This world is scary. This world is demonic. This world is all those D's. It's distorted, deceptive, divisive. It's demonic. And so we look to the Lord. We look to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and we say, make your face to shine upon us. Bless and keep us. Anyway, we'll talk to you soon. Good night, all.